could you think of sleeping at a time like this? We can't even afford to live here because you don't have a job. Do you want me to pawn my awards?
Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review. Bad, bad, not good.
Alright, hold on there, partner. You just started the review, and you're already saying it's bad. Just give it a chance.
Bad, bad, not good, Bbng2. These guys are a young trio of jazz musicians from Canada. This is their second full-length album. And they really are coming into this genre with an attitude and their own way of doing things. They just put out there this rejection of the old school jazz ethos, which a lot of people take issue with because there are a lot of sacred cows in jazz that you're not supposed to stomp all over. In a way, I think it's kind of a good thing because constantly praising the same forefather artists over and over again and also not allowing any new ideas to seep in, the intent may be preservation, but the result is always decay. I wouldn't say Bad, Bad, Not Good is a complete rejection of the old way of doing things, though. Between the instrumentation that these guys make use of, piano, bass, drums, there's actually some guest saxophone playing on here, the improvisation and interplay on a lot of these tracks, and the fact that these guys reinterpret pre-existing material, I would say the jazz foundation is pretty firm underneath these guys. It's just that these guys, for the most part, when they do cover a song, it's a hip-hop song, it's beat music or an instrumental, it's electronic music. So while the execution is ultimately jazz, the source material is what ends up making Bad, Bad, Not Good feel new and current and different. The band's last full-length album, which I reviewed, gave a positive review to, did reinterpretations of everything from a Nas instrumental to Gang Starr. They even covered some Zelda songs from Ocarina of Time. And the forecast this time around is much different. On the last LP, original material was pretty scant, but in contrast, this album, a quarter of it is original material. There's some Odd Future covers on here, of course. It opens up with EARL and then goes later into a medley that has been kind of kicking around in the Bad, Bad, Not Good canon for a while. This mix of Tyler the Creator's Bastard and Gucci Mane's Lemonade. Toward the end of this LP, they cover Kanye's Flashing Lights. They even do a couple James Blake covers on this thing, as well as a My Bloody Valentine cover to end the whole album. The song Recipe is different, the mixture is different, and the presentation of these songs is different this time around too. These guys have upped the production quality a lot. To me, the pianos feel much more resonant, much heavier, bigger. The drums just come through much clearer. They don't always have that same boom bap texture on them. A lot more sonic variety on the drums throughout this LP. The bass sounds nice and warm. The electric bass, there's a lot more upright bass on this thing too. And the saxophone that appears on a couple tracks on here sounds great as well. There's even a pretty distorted guitar on that My Bloody Valentine cover toward the end. And there's just a variety of different keyboard sounds on this thing as well, from the grand, large acoustic piano that's on Rotten Decay or Limit for Your Love, the fat, distorted, heavy synths on EARL, and sometimes there are these very smooth, icy synthesizers that appear on a few tracks here. And of course, that really sharp electric piano sound that was on the band's last album. It sounds even sharper now, like marbles hitting glass. And like I said, I feel like there's more interplay on this LP too. Alex, for example, is improvising on his drums a lot more on this LP, throwing subtle little changes into his rhythms, not just playing it straight. And when these guys jam, they are jamming a lot harder on this thing. On the last album, some of the solos, though I did like the album, I felt like they could have gone harder. They could have just dug into the song more. I imagine a song as kind of being like a room, and when you're playing a really passionate, fiery solo, you're just turning the furniture over and like throwing stuff out the windows. This time around, Bad, Bad, Not Good really destroys some of the rooms that they're fooling around in. Like on that drum solo at the end of EARL, the bass solo on Limit to Your Love, the sax solo on UWM, and the keyboard solos on that Flashing Lights cover are so simultaneously soloing and embellishing on the chords. And the Odd Future Gucci Mane medley on this thing, which these guys have been playing for a while, has developed into a whole new animal, really emphasizing the contrast between the Bastard section of the song and the Lemonade section of the song, making the Bastard part really slow, dark, heavy, dramatic, and then when the Gucci Mane spot hits, they just blast into it. Bad Bad Not Good is just tighter than ever, and I did not think they would reach this level of intensity in their playing so quickly, because they're really tearing into some of these tracks and making them their own. These guys throw in a reworked version of the song Rotten Decay, which was a single that they dropped earlier this year, an original song, and I'm loving this reworked version. I feel like it has been incubated a bit and it's developed a little bit more. The track is still lumbering and heavy, but the playing is more precise, and what the band is trying to do, I feel like, comes through a lot stronger with how they're slowing down the tempo, speeding it up so it feels more fluid. As the tempo's moving, the drums, the bass, and the piano feel much more together. So the tension the track was supposed to bring originally is just so much stronger. The song Limit to Your Love, which is originally a Feist song, but then became a James Blake cover, is covered on here, but they're kind of covering the James Blake version with these really heavy piano keys, and then the toms on the drums are kind of used to imitate the whoa, 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 whoa. And the bass on the lead melody on this thing sounds great. The sixth track on here, Chester, kind of feels like Bad Bad Not Good imitating a Future Garage tune with the chords and the keys and the way the drum beat is performed. It kind of falls into a hip-hop groove later with just bass solos galore, and it's really got a nice funky and smooth vibe to it that I love. The next track, UWM, is definitely my favorite original on this entire thing. The electric piano chords on here are so dreary, and the drum beat has a nice boom bap texture to it with this tambourine mixed in with a snare that's a really nice touch. I love the way the groove changes suddenly too, and you got these ascending, descending piano chords that play over it. It just builds a lot of tension in the track, and Leland Whitty's saxophone on the song, when the track just sort of smooths out, falls into a more chill groove, is killer. His playing is really smoky, really sultry, sexy. And Flashing Lights is definitely my favorite cover on this entire thing. Bad Bad Not Good gives the song the really epic, smooth, and gargantuan synths toward the beginning of the track that it deserves. But once they get into the jam on the song, they are just blasting through it. And this pretty much feels like the end of the album for me. Right after this, a My Bloody Valentine cover of You Made Me Realize is kind of tacked on to the end. And it doesn't really feel like any other track on the album, especially production-wise. The drums feel so sharp and tinny and don't have a lot of punch to them. The pianos get swallowed in the guitar distortion a little bit on that track. The bass is kind of strumming along to the tempo, gets a little lost in the chaos, I think, too. The jazzy guitar solos toward the end of the track are pretty nice. It definitely didn't become one of my favorite parts on the album, though. Another part on the album I didn't really care for, the song Vices, the way the drums get so much more intense and speedy, just filling up space as much as possible with fills in every direction. But to kind of hear the keyboard playing the same smooth chords as that is happening, not hearing them kind of get lost in that progression, just building up with the drums, felt kind of weird for me. But other than that, I don't really have a lot of complaints. I mean, I think these guys are doing fantastic things for jazz, and whether that's intentional or they're pretty much just doing this for themselves, doesn't really matter. I like that Bad Bad Not Good is incorporating more original material, though sometimes I think maybe they should kind of let it sit and incubate, like I said earlier in regards to Rotten Decay, because I love the way they progressed that song. And the Lemonade Bastard medley that they do is also proof that if they work on something hard enough, they let it sit long enough, it's gonna become fantastic. And I love that they're bringing in more sounds and more instrumentation this time around too, and it's not just for flash, it's not just for show, it's actually adding to the musical musical element of these songs and bringing a lot of character to them too. I'm feeling a strong 8 to a light 9 on this album. I think it's fantastic and definitely going to be one of my favorites toward the end of this year. But what do you guys think of this thing? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Why? And what should I review next? Anthony Fantano, Bad Bad Not Good, forever.